Welcome to another episode of Business and Wealth Podcast. Today, our topic is busyness for business owners. I'm your host, Alicia Masood, and I'll be providing you with an accountant's perspective on the challenges that business owners face in Australia and also some of the tips and tricks that I've used myself in working through the business stuff. I also have with me an esteemed coach, Brad Barr from Primed Leadership. He's an executive and business coach. He wears two hats and has been in the industry for 7 years. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you, Alicia. Lovely to be here.
Yeah, tell us a bit about yourself before we kick into our topic.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Corporate for 30 years in financial services, doing a whole lot of different things, leading people predominantly all of my working life. Then I moved out of corporate in 2019 and I moved into coaching part-time, full-time. I've been running my own business since then, juggling a family of late teens, early 20s, a few dogs here and there. And so, yeah, I've had a lot going on in the last number of years.
That's fantastic. So people really should listen to you when you talk about, you know, um, busyness from a coach's perspective, because sounds like you have been talking about this with lots of different people for a while, and obviously other aspects of leadership and coaching material that you go through.
Thank you. Yeah.
So last time we caught up, we were talking about busyness, and primarily we talked a lot about how when you and I talk to business owners, we find that they sort of say, yeah, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. And it's kind
Mm.
of like that badge of honor where people go, yeah, it's so good to be so busy. Um, but at the cost of what? So let's delve deeper into that. And um, I'd love to know from your perspective, um, why do so many business owners equate busy with productive or successful and essentially wear it like a badge of honor?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's not just business owners, but for today's conversation, if you think about it like a continuum, at one end's super busy, and at the other end's not busy at all. So where would you like to be on that continuum, right? I find a lot of people would prefer to have some balance, but when you ask them how are they, how's business, the default seems to be busy, and so I think there's this acceptance that if I'm not busy, I'm not successful, or I don't have enough clients, or I don't have enough work. And so I think our natural reaction to say, hey, we're busy, which means we're going pretty well.
That's true. And I think also sometimes that can mask profitability as well, because once you delve deeper, or for in my role, when we look at the financial statements and we sort of say, um, cool, like you've been so busy, you maybe haven't even had a chance to talk to your accountant about your business. And then when we delve deeper, a lot of the times there could be a profitability problem because a lot of the times business owners haven't considered the value of their time,
Mm.
or what they are working on may not be the profitable bit. It may just be uh, spinning their wheel on something, or they could hire somebody else to do that role for them.
Mm.
Um, and what's your perspective on the profitability piece, or have you come across something along those lines?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of small business owners, a lot of leaders um, might have a bit of a mask on around busyness, but I'm curious as a coach as to what's going on behind the scenes. And so, of course, we want to be busy. We want to be doing good work. The question is not how much work we're doing, but are we doing the right work? What is the most important work that I should be doing to move the business forward? And I find, just like a swimmer with a bad stroke, we can be flapping our arms in the water, kicking, but not actually getting anywhere. And so the real question I find is, what does productive look like? What is the right activities for you to focus on? And if you focus on those, that'll lead to profit. That'll lead to a better business. That'll lead to a better balanced business owner.
Mm. And are you finding that's because of perhaps the reactiveness of the approach? versus like people being proactive about planning and working through the things that they want to consider for their business, have a completely different outlook, have a different way that their busy looks.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I find a lot of owners and a lot of leaders are reactive to other people's demands, whether it be customers, staff, issues in general. And so, what the work that needs to be done is how do you shift from reacting to things to being in control? We call it, shifting to being more intentional. What do I want? What do I want to focus on? And if you go back to, the original Eisenhower matrix, which is that urgent, important sort of matrix that we all know about, there's knowing about things, but actually doing it, right? The real shift is how do I move away from things that are urgent and that feeling of I'm always on speed, I'm always chasing my tail, to moving to things that are important and urgent. And so that kind of difference between how urgent I'm considering things and how important. And so that's the shift we want people to make, not just reacting to things, because otherwise you're involved in things that other people want you to do, or you've allowed to become urgent.
Yeah, because you know that matrix is really interesting because in my work as an accountant and as a business owner, I find that things that are just at times left end up becoming urgent just because of
Mm,
the time scenario.
yeah, yeah,
They may not be the most productive things for you to do, but because you've left them for so long, they end up taking up a lot of time. Like if you have got a staffing issue, comes a point where you haven't dealt with it appropriately, so more staff end up leaving. But you'd have a more detailed or in-depth understanding as to how the staffing complexity works for businesses or business owners. But yeah, sometimes people end up doing a lot of just the urgent work, but not the work that should be the priority.
yeah. I'm speaking with a lot of business owners who are experiencing this now, and there's this often a fear of letting go as the owner, particularly in the small businesses, and trusting the teams and spending the important time on developing your people, on enabling them to do what they turned up to do. And so often I find the challenge is actually the leader, not the people. And so, how do we help the leader step back, slow down a bit, and focus on what's most important? And one of those activities is certainly around planning and developing their team so the team can be successful, because then that will lift the performance of the business.
That's so true. But then how does a business owner, for example, the business owners that I talk to, they are running their own business. They haven't really gotten training on how to run their business. They are just really good operators,
Yeah,
and the skill they've got is incredible,
yeah,
right? So they sort of go, I've been performing the skill. I know I can get results. Um, I am passionate about my skill, and therefore I want to run my own ship.
yeah,
So they go from being an employee um, to a business owner. Now they're really good at this skill, but now they need to learn how to sell the skill, how to market the skill, how to make sure they remain profitable. They have to pay the bills of the business and they have to pay their own bills. So effectively, a lot of the times when a business owner starts, they will run a company or run an ABN, but then still pay themselves as an employee. So it's a lot.
yeah.
And how would someone go about deconstructing that to sort of go, okay, this is perhaps my priority. Some tips and tricks would be fantastic.
Yeah, again, it's a good question, and it's common for business owners. It's also common for leaders. As you transition from leading yourself to starting to lead others, leading a team, then leading more than one team, and then ultimately leading a business or an organization. And so it is a shift away from thinking about your own needs to thinking about the bigger needs. And team is always bigger than the individual, and business is always bigger than the team. And so mindset is critical around that. In most sporting teams, I love sport, as you know. In most sporting teams, the transition from a very good player, whatever the sport, into being the captain or the coach is a challenging one. And sometimes the very best players, in fact, often the very best players don't become the best captains or coaches. And the key reason why is it's a different role. The orientation's different. Two things are happening. One, you're shifting roles into looking after others and thinking of others and developing others and focusing on collective outcomes. That's the first shift. And so you sort of feel like you're moving away from something, but what you're moving towards is the bigger picture and what's actually happening in the business and where's the business going. So they're the kind of the two different movements that are going on. A key thing I try and say to my clients, Alicia, is it starts with awareness, and from awareness you can then take action. It's sort of like a simple thing to think about. What do others need? What does my team need? And what's the role that I'm performing? Because not a lot of us will accept, actually, you know what, maybe I'm not the best person to be the CEO of this small business. Maybe I'm great at this and I love doing this part of it. Maybe I'm great on the tools, and maybe someone else should run the team or the business. And a few of my clients are doing that. It's not a loss of skill set. It's actually the opposite. It's applying the skills to the role that's needed that best suits you, best suits the business.
Wow, that's very profound because in my role at Deloitte, I worked for this very large small business. I say it's a large small business because they were just touching on the ATO slab of small business, right? And the business owners had actually moved back and ended up employing a CEO, a CFO, for the two separate branches of the businesses that they were running. And the business kept thriving and doing more and more. And I have now understood what the method behind the madness. So,
Yeah.
um,
And look, it's not as, I've simplified things a bit. There's often lots of things going on. The other thing that pops up for me is ego. We're very good at something, but we might not be, it's been a real challenge for me to recognize I think I'm a far better coach than I am a marketer, right? But I have to put a whole lot of hats on my bald head, right? But I know that I'm good at something. So for me to grow the business and to work with my clients, I need to put my ego away and say, well, what's best for the business? What am I best suited to do? And bringing that back to busyness, it's always thinking about what's the most important thing that I need to be focusing on now, and that's sort of on a day-to-day basis. More broadly, and how does this take us as a team, as a business, towards our vision, where we want to go, and what's my role, either a CEO or anyone else in the business? How am I contributing to that? Because if everyone's clear and you're aligned on the vision, it makes things so much more effective.
that's so true. Now bringing in the working in
Mm,
versus on the business conversation, and we hear
mm,
that a lot when we talk to business owners, right? They always talk about, yes, I really need to be working in the on the business more than I'm working in the business. Every time we have, financial year check-ins with them, um, and my conversations, I understand that when people are really working in the business, they're not able to get up and look at the bigger picture and sort of go, okay, maybe I'm one electrician too short. Maybe, or maybe I just need to hire someone to support me with the admin.
yeah.
Or maybe the leadership stuff that they've just been applying has primarily been, oh, this is what my old boss used to do.
Mm,
So this is how he became a leader. He used to
mm,
take everyone out to drinks, for example.
yeah.
So I'm going to apply the same methodology and then do that. But at times we find that perhaps outsourcing those tasks may be the best thing for that business owner, as we were talking about earlier as well. Like perhaps hiring a business coach is going to help them in working on their business rather in their business to help get their head out of the minutia and looking at the strategic priorities. So in your role as a business coach, how would you support somebody like this? Or yeah, how would you go about, someone who is working in the business, hasn't really started working on the business? How would you help uplift them?
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind. Keyword being patience, slow down, and step back. So one of the things at the moment that I'm having lots of conversations around. So one of the programs we do is around a time audit of a business. Where is someone spending their time? What's the most useful time for them? What does that look like? Have a look at someone's schedule and you can tell what they prioritize. And so when we do that, we're able to help them recognize not only what is the most important work that I need to do, but one of the most, and there's thousands of different time management techniques out there, jump on Google, but it's the message I would give I give my clients, and I'd say to anyone who listens, find the right technique or tool that works for you. A simple one that works, I find more often than not with my clients, is have a director's meeting each week with yourself, 2 to 3 hours, focusing purely on the business. And what I mean by that is things like that you've mentioned, strategy, what's working, what's not working. And there's different ways you can set the agenda up for that meeting. Ask yourself a handful of questions. What's gone well in the last fortnight or last week? What do I need to focus on? If there was a dashboard of results, what does that look like? Are we making progress? If not, why not? So strategic planning, thinking about developing their people, thinking longer term, they're all classic leadership activities or behaviors. So I would encourage business owners to get into the discipline of carving out, even if you can only start with an hour a week, ideally more, but pure and guard that time, that you don't let other people or calls, put your phone away, leave it somewhere else. Focus purely on stepping back and looking at the business and sort of saying, how's it going? What's working? What's not working? What are the initiatives that I've got going on? Are they the right ones, or do I need new ones? And then actually planning, and we use a 90-day planning tool and discipline around that. This stuff's not hard, Alicia. It's just discipline and focus. We know what we should be doing, but doing it is why a lot of people will come to a coach, because I sit alongside people on a fortnightly basis and help them work on it. And they know what to do, but they just don't have the discipline and structure to do it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When we talk to our clients, we sort of say a slightly different approach where we talk about a monthly profit and loss. So we
Great.
sort of say, like, look at how, like, do all the bookkeeping every month instead of like putting it to the, end of the quarter when your BAS is perhaps due. Look at it every month
Fantastic.
and check what were the things you were doing 1 month versus a second month. So, whereas your approach, I really like that as well because it's more finger on the pulse. And it's also more intentional, where you talk about the 90-day plan and you talk about sitting on a weekly or a fortnightly basis to assess everything, how it's going.
Yeah.
What we find people do when they look at their profit and loss on a monthly basis is they sort of go, okay, last month I was running Google Ads and that costed me a lot of money on marketing and I got X amount of leads from it. For sometimes it's profitable, sometimes for some businesses it's not profitable. Other times, what people do is they say, oh, yeah, like I was doing a lot of face to face networking, or I was doing like these other marketing activities that were leading to a lot more business versus not leading to business. And then at times that helps them identify, okay, like this activity is a high value activity in my business versus being a low value activity, which probably I could cut down on or not spend my money and time
Yeah.
on that. And are you able to have similar conversations and
Yeah,
extract
100%.
those?
Yeah, I think at its core, coaching is around um, enabling the other person to step back and reflect on what's happened and make sense of it, right? And through the coach's approach, we help them, talk through what happened, what have they learned from that, what will they do differently, what might have been the causes, but also, so where are we now? What does it look like? And then, most importantly, how do we take those lessons and insights and apply the planning discipline of saying, well, okay, what do we need to do to go forward? Right. So that's kind of and whether or not it's looking at marketing or sales or cash flow or people, the same approach applies. How do I make
Yeah.
sense of what's happening? What can I learn from that? What can I apply? What do I need to do the same, differently, etc.? And then, okay, going forward, it's the other metaphor that hits me. It's like I don't know, maybe because it's hot outside. It's a swimming metaphor again. When you swim in a pool, you're guided by the lane ropes, right? And you follow the black line at the bottom of the pool, right? And you just keep going. You get to the end, you turn, and depending on how many laps you're doing. When you're out in the ocean, or you don't have, or you're swimming in a lake or whatever, you have to keep looking up. Am I on track to where I'm going? Right? You never see anyone who's ocean swimming or whatever not looking up. Right? They might be looking around for sharks and other stuff, but what they're doing is they're looking, are they on track to their goals, to their end game, to the point that they want to get to? And I think that's the same for business owners. How often am I taking the time to look up and look out at where I'm going? Am I still heading in the right direction, or do I need to course adjust? And then I come back to what I'm doing and we go again. And you don't want to leave that too long, because you might be heading in a different direction. And then when you do look up, you're completely in the wrong spot.
Yeah, that's a really good metaphor, to almost think about business as a professional sport, as an athlete, because when you are, and there's so much to be learnt from athletes as well,
100%.
because they are dedicated, they've got a lot of built-in resilience, um, or they build their resilience muscle,
Yeah.
and they're not shy of trying things, and they are also practicing a lot of the time. And
Yeah.
you can take those elements and bring it to um, business as well,
I
as they
love this topic.
apply.
I love it. And I could talk about it if we've got 3 hours, but maybe it's a topic for another day. But I think, like, case in point, Winter Olympics, people that have trained for 4 years to get to where they need to get to. So, preparation, what does that look like? Then there's the performance and the poor athletes that have crashed out and injured themselves, right? Then the next bit, which is what a lot of leaders, a lot of small business owners don't do, that athletes do, is they focus on their recovery. Because only if your recovery is good are you able to get back to training again to perform. And so I think that's a message that I'd love to give your listeners today, around what is it they're focusing on that's most important, but also, are they creating space to look after themselves from a recovery point of view, so that they can perform better when they're back on the field or court or in the office.
And a slight tangent from this topic is when we talk to our clients, we also talk about the the per hour calculation, where we talk about, for example, how much per hour your billable rate is. And this is a very accounting terminology, I know, but it's such an important concept for business
100%.
owners to get the grasp of,
Yeah.
to sort of go, okay, if you're targeting $150,000 in profit, which is after you've deducted all of the expenses of the business, then you start to pay the person who's running the business, right? You don't pay the business owner the first time you get some money in. So then you want to divide by the amount of hours you're putting into the business. And once people do that calculation, like you see their faces change because they go, holy, I'm just working
Yeah.
for this much.
Yeah.
Like I was getting paid more per hour
Yeah.
working for someone at times, or they go, okay, this is a real penny drop moment for me because I can now hire an admin staff at $25 an hour, or if they offshore it, even cheaper than that, to do all the minutia work to help give me a summary to go, okay, now I'm spending my $85 an hour on the stuff that really matters, on the stuff that is going to move the needle.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
love it. And I think it's like, again, the athlete connection to your point. Athletes have to understand their numbers. They know their performance. They're
mm,
constantly looking at them. They're checking in on them. They have the mindset they want to improve. And so when you show business owners, and again, as part of our time audit process, we talk through that, the hourly rate. So I love the fact that you've highlighted that because the numbers don't lie. And so knowing that, though, coming back to awareness, knowing that, what am I going to do differently, or what needs to be done differently to get a different result?
yeah, or in an economic concept, we can also talk about the opportunity cost. Very similar concept where you talk about your opportunity of time, because time is a limited resource.
Yeah.
Um, what are you missing out on as the cost of you spending time on this other item? And what should you be spending time on? So I think a lot of this busyness stuff that business owners talk about, once as an accountant we have this conversation with them, a lot of the minutia sort of drops. But I imagine as a coach as well, when you talk to them, a lot of this like other stuff that doesn't really matter. Perhaps they want to get fit for their family.
Yeah.
Perhaps they want
Yeah.
more time in their life.
100%. We talk a lot when we coach the whole person is the way I sort of think about it. Um, you know, we're not just who we are at work. What else is going on? And I find, unfortunately, a number of business owners that I'm talking to at the moment, what goes first is the things outside work, around balance, um, around health, around social. Reconnecting with the family, with your partner, doing those other things you enjoy, because we didn't go into small business just to work, right? We went into small business to do something because we love, we want to make a difference, and we've got some skills in it. But we also want to create a lifestyle, whether or not we're self-employed or employed, that we're able to use the money, use the success that we have to do the things that we're most excited and passionate about. And we absolutely need to think about the 24 hours we've got in the day and look at that. Where are we spending our time? Have I got the balance right? If not, what adjustments do I need to make?
Yeah. And with the adjustments point, I want to also mention delegation, which
Mm,
can sometimes be so difficult
mm-hmm,
for a business owner
mm,
to sort of go, okay, I'm going to delegate this aspect of my role to someone else. I know I've had that as well. So perhaps how do how does someone think about the delegation challenge?
yeah, it's a very common thing, whether it be in corporates, in self-employed. Um, I believe it starts with mindset and and awareness. So awareness of where are the opportunities of things that if they're urgent and not important, that I could potentially delegate to someone else. The fundamental flaw, I think, with people thinking about delegation is, how do I get rid of stuff that I don't want to do? Right? That's the wrong mindset. The mindset is, who else could do this? There's a great book, Who Not How. And one of the things it's thinking, who is the right person who could do this? And it's not thinking about, the $25 an hour or whatever, but who is the right person that could do this? That allows me to focus on something that I might be more suited to doing, right? So the mindset is also around development. How can I set them up for success? So, and we know people stay in roles and grow in roles and stay in companies, not just for the money, but generally for the leadership and for the culture and enjoyment of work. And if we're developing people by giving them new opportunities, giving them additional things to do, responsibilities, and we help set them up for success, that's a win for them, and it's a win for the leader, because the leader can then focus on other areas, and more gets done, and the business will perform better.
That's so true. I know for sure I have stayed in in organizations previously where I felt like I'd be given more opportunity versus in another organization where I was like, maybe my opportunities are going to stagnate after this next move. Um, so yeah, that's a very, very key point. And systemization as well, right? Systemization is also really important. In our business, for example, we've got so many systems and processes that we've now built in that the delegation feels very comfortable. We are onboarding a new employee next week. And we're very excited for that because I think this time round, and we've had an unsuccessful hire last year, towards the end of last year.
Okay.
But whilst we were away on holiday, we took some time and thought about how can we improve our systems internally to feel more comfortable about the delegation aspect of it. And now our systems they were really good before as well, compared to like a very traditional accounting firm. But now they're even better than they were before for us to feel really confident and
Fantastic.
comfortable. And us using the systems as well, we're enjoying a lot. Like on Monday, I was working through and I was like, oh, this is like a breeze. Like I used to spend maybe 15 minutes doing this or 20 minutes writing this email. But now that I've systemized the email, because that kind of email I have to send 90% of my new clients, it's made such a huge difference. So
and we know generally in most businesses, the more systems and processes there are, it makes the business more valuable. So the embedded systems allow, often cost savings, time savings, benefits around, peace of mind, etc. So absolutely, looking through those tasks, that there is an opportunity to either systemize it to who or what. So is it someone or a system, AI? Is it something else that could do these tasks, set up this process so it's repeatable to give us those benefits?
exactly, exactly. And all of that, I think everything that we've talked about, systems, processes, making sure we align to the goals, we are checking in to the goals, making sure we are swimming in the, like looking for the black line when we are swimming, all tie into the busyness conversation, because all of these elements, if a business owner can nail these, I have seen in the business owners that I speak to, uh, they are doing millions. Like they will bill millions worth of revenue just because they are able to bed down and do this well, versus like a new business owner. There's nothing wrong being a new business owner. You just, are learning a new role as a business owner, like you talked about, learning the leadership challenge as well. But also, there are so many things that you don't know when you become a business owner, but the ones who get the right help and the ones who apply the right advice, because you can plan all you want, but unless you implement it or take out the time to implement it, it's not going to deliver the results that you want it to deliver.
Yeah.
And all of it ties into busyness because it helps you free up your time, or the business owner free up their time to do the things that matter the most.
100%. Yeah. Lead intentionally, focused on what matters the most. and keep checking into your point around the line. Am I doing those things? And if not, how do I get onto those things, and how do I apply different techniques to make sure I'm spending my time on this so that I can do other things as well?
Yeah. Well, we'll be looking to wrap up. Any last thoughts from you before we wrap it up for today?
No, I appreciate the opportunity. I think, all of us, I think I'd just ask your listeners, next time you hear someone that says they're busy or they're feeling like they're busy, just notice, are they clear on what they need to do, and focused on that. And there's a number of different tools and techniques they can apply, even as simple as getting things out of their head onto a bit of paper and looking at what needs to be done and applying that urgent, important type of thinking to it, and planning. The more a business owner can be intentional about what they want and how they're going to go about it, that will set them up for success. And of course, if they want to coach, uh, love to have a chat.
Yeah, definitely. Reach out to Brad Barr. I'm going to leave the link to his LinkedIn and his website
Thanks.
below in the show notes. So please check him out. And if you want a time audit workshop or a 90-day plan, Brad will be fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to talk to you, Alicia. Thanks for the opportunity.
No worries. Great to talk to you as well. Speak to you later.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.